Move on to the San Antonio Spurs.
Oh my God.
They finished with the 10 seed last year, 33-39. They lost in the play-in to Memphis, and they added Josh Primo, Doug McDermott, Zach Collins, Brent Forbes, Jock Landale, Chandler Hutchinson, Thad Young, and Aminu. But they lost DeMar DeRozan, Rudy Gay, Patty Mills, Trey Lyles, and Gorky Zhang.
Goodness.
Are the Spurs going to be one of the worst teams in the NBA this upcoming season? And where do you think they'll finish in the Western Conference standings?
This is actually one of my worst teams in the NBA. You know, I think they'll finish 13 to 15 seed, but I don't think they should be mad about it. You know, getting Thaddeus Young, I feel like they should trade him, get some picks.
Al-Farouq Aminu.
Yeah, he'll be gone. Doug McDermott, you know, it fills a void that they couldn't shoot last year. He helps.
His Spurs pick
but at the same time, I'm really just looking at the Spurs, and I want to see how their young guys develop. You know, Spurs fans have been high on their young guys. Josh Primo, he's 18 years old. Keldon Johnson, DeJounte Murray, Derek White, Devin Vassell.
Josh Primo projected top 5 pick in the 2022 draft.
Yeah, that guy. Like they have been, you know, they're high on their young guys. So I'm really just honestly for the Spurs this year, this is just to look at their guys and their young guys in the development year. I feel like they should play hard nonetheless. Winning helps young players. But at the same time, for me, I think they're going to be one of the bottom teams in the league. And I just think this is a year for me to just look at their young guys and see how they progress and play together, honestly.
So my analysis for this team, actually, you guys can look at it. It just says yikes. They had a rough offseason. They lost a lot of their key guys. Obviously, last season, LaMarcus Aldridge went on to the Nets. Obviously, DeMar DeRozan's now with the Chicago Bulls. They're now relying on DeJounte Murray, Derek White. Just a bunch of guys that I'm just not overly impressed with, truthfully. DeJounte Murray is a solid ball player. I'm not going to take that away from him. Derek White has some potential to be a solid ball player, too. I just think that the sooner that the Spurs realize that they're not contenders or they're not going to be perennial playoff, you know, or not have consistent playoff appearances, that they need to take a look at themselves and realize our squad is just not good enough right now. Let's take a couple seasons. Let's be at the bottom of the Western Conference for now. Let's sacrifice now so that our future can be strong. I think that given the fact that
president.
Yeah, thanks. Greg Popovich obviously is a fantastic coach, and that's something that Spurs Nation loves to bring up to us, and that Pop will never allow his team to quit or give up and have that losing mentality. And I agree with that to a degree, but it gets to a point where you need to put your future at the forefront. DeJounte Murray, you could keep him. I'm fine with keeping DeJounte. But like you mentioned,
he's whatever.
I'm sorry, Thaddeus Young. Thaddeus Young was a very firm piece last season for the Chicago Bulls. You could see if you get maybe a first-round pick if he starts balling for you guys. Maybe something around those lines. Try and stack up some draft capital. What do you
mean balling for you guys? Why are you playing at me?
Because you're a Chicago Bull fan, aren't you?
He's not on my team anymore.
I understand, but he was balling for you guys. This guy, unbelievable.
Confused.
Regardless, Spurs, their ceiling for me is probably around 11 or 12, given the fact that Popovich is a solid coach. They just never seem to quit for some reason. It's not out of the realm of possibility it gets around there. But for me, their floor, is the worst team in the Western Conference. It's really possible this roster is not that good overall. There's a chance we see them at the bottom.
Here comes Spurs fans.
First of all, is Josh Primo going to get minutes? I'm not sure. I think he should too. He's looked really good in preseason. You know, I called that pick one of the worst ones of the draft. If he proves me wrong, so be it. I'm not mad at it. The Spurs are just not a good team. They are hoping for so many prayers to be answered. A Lonnie Walker breakout, a Keldon Johnson breakout, a Devin Vassell breakout. You're hoping for 3 guys to break out. Calm your damn horses. Usually one guy breaks out on a team, not 3
maybe
at the
2.
same time. Maybe
Max
2. Doesn't happen to 3 guys. You know, Spurs fans talk about Lonnie Walker like he's the second coming of Ray Allen or something. Like, Lonnie Walker is a fine player.
I like Lonnie.
But he's not anything special or exceptional. He's a horrid defender. And Keldon Johnson is a extremely bad defender. Yeah. And Spurs fans love to say he's an Olympic gold medalist. So is Mason Plumlee. Who cares? You know, Keldon Johnson played like 2 minutes in total. What are we talking about here? Seriously, what are we talking about here? I like that they finally got rid of these vets though, and they're letting their young players play. You're right. Embrace the rebuild. I think they're going to try to be competitive, but thankfully, they're just not good enough to be competitive. And I was a Spurs fan. I'd be happy about that because I can get a top pick. I can go get a Jaden Hardy, who is 10 times the player Lonnie Walker is. I could go get a Apollo Bonchero. I can go get a Chet Holmgren. Do that. Spurs, do that. Embrace the rebuild. Embrace it. Don't be ashamed. Just go all in and embrace it and suck. You've been good for so long. What's being bad for 2, 3, 4 years gonna do in the long run? It's gonna do nothing. Popovich is probably coaching his last year, or it's probably his last 2 seasons coaching. Their ceiling is a 12 seed just because the Spurs roster isn't very good, right? But when I look at OKC, I think and I'm like, damn, the Spurs roster is better than OKC's though. They just don't have a star, but they have more depth. I look at the Spurs in Houston and I say, damn, Spurs have a better roster than Houston. And
think so?
Yeah, and more well coached. They're well coached too.
Yeah, that's true.
But then after that, I don't see them better than Sacramento.
Pelicans?
My word, I don't see them better than the Pelicans. I just don't see it. And because of that, I think the Spurs are a 13 seed, 12 seed at best, but their floor is a 15 seed. If Shea does stay healthy the entire year and OKC is competitive, they can be very good. So, that's what I think about the Spurs. Not too highly. Embrace the rebuild. That's it.
I went already.
I'm waiting for JC.
Oh, I mean,
Y'all looked at me.
I mean, I don't really have much to say about the Spurs. I'm pretty much agree with what all you guys said. I mean, this is a rebuild year. This is a year where they can see what they get from their young players. I do think that Greg Popovich is on his last year's coaching this team. But like I said, I agree with Joel. I mean, the Spurs, that's been the problem with the Spurs. That organization is so competitive that they'll try to get the few extra wins and mess up their draft position. I think this is one of the first years in a very long time where we could see the Spurs potentially have a top 5 pick. And if the lottery plays out right, maybe they can get the number 1 pick in the draft. So, I mean, other than that, I mean, I don't really expect much from this team this year. I think their ceiling is not making the playoffs. I think their floor is not making the playoffs. It's just this team's not making the playoffs. But, I'm excited. I'm excited to see, what these young guys do. I'm kind of off the DeJounte Murray, breakout bandwagon. I've been waiting on it for so long. But
we know what he is.
We know what he is.
Is it in the realm say he's like a Marcus Smart type of player?
I think he's
like Alonzo Ball.
Yeah, and I don't even know if he's better than Alonzo Ball.
He's better than Alonzo.
I don't know.
A little better than Alonzo
It's
Ball.
debatable, but
I think he's in that realm.
It's debatable, but like I said, nonetheless, I mean, the Spurs have had they've had this streak up until recently where
it's
they made
funny
the
that
playoffs
the
21
Spurs
straight
think
years.
they'll be competitive with their best player being Alonzo Ball type of guy.
Quick question.
That's just how they are.
I want you to I'm going to ask you guys, who do you think is going to break out this year for the Spurs if you had to guess? Just shoot me a name.
Oof. Probably Lonnie.
Keldon Johnson.
Devin Vassell.
He's good, too.
You think Devin Vassell?
I think that's gonna be my guy. I'm gonna rock with him this shit up.
I mean,
Why do you think that?
I just like he
He's good,
fits
though.
the NBA mold more than anybody in the team because of the fact that he can
His jump
space the
shot's a little
floor,
funky,
he can
though.
defend, and he can guard the perimeter. So I like his development.
I agree with you, though. I mean, this is the first year in the history, no, not history, but in a very long time that the Spurs actually have a shot at landing a top 5
Since
prospect.
Tim Duncan.
Since a
And the
very
fans
long
don't know
time
how to
on.
react. The fans think the world is falling.
They've been spoiled.
I mean, yeah, they had the longest playoff streak, 21 straight years making the
I'm a
playoffs.
Spurs fan. I'm talking mad shit.
You know, you guys got 5 rings. You guys got 5 rings in that run. I mean, I think pretty
5 rings, GOAT, power forward.
I feel like the
TP,
Spurs though
Manu.
they're the most successful, least talked about team in sports.
1,000%.
Yeah, model and consistency, great organization.
I think everybody understands they're a great organization.
care
They've
much.
had great history, but nobody really cares.
Yeah.
You know what?
They're so
You know what?
boring.
A lot of people underrate about the Spurs is a lot of the top coaches and not GMs and assistant coaches. They all come from the Spurs tree. Yep. You know what I mean? Like Kenny Atkinson was an assistant for the Spurs. Budenholzer was on the Spurs. There's, everybody, their model consistency and their franchise is so good that everybody tries to pick, like the little pieces they can to add to try to make
Popovich's
themselves.
stubbornness has also traveled too.
Yeah,
though.
to make themselves, to be like a San Antonio Spurs organization, a well-run organization team that plays well. But, I mean, other than that, this team's not making the playoffs.